During this autumn I went to Switzerland, and during this trip I had the best watch experience I've ever had during my watch career, and I will get into why. But before that we got to stop at a coffee shop to get some breakfast, and the train journey started from Baden and the first stop was Basel. We took the train as you do in Switzerland, and the train went smooth and on time as you would expect from this country and from these cities, and it was a beautiful train ride, of course. We arrived into Basel and the train station was just also beautiful. Everything is beautiful in this country, and every time I'm here I'm surprised by it. We walked through the city and we got finally to the destination. And the first stop was the Maison Oris Boutique, which is located in the heart of Basel, and here our great friend Simon took care of us, and he's the one to thank for this whole trip. I had such an awesome experience, so let's go into the store and see what it looks like.
Willkommen in Basel at the Maison Oris, or how we say in Switzerland, Grüezi miteinander. My name is Simon Kaiser. I'm the store manager here at Maison Oris, and I'm happy that you are here today looking at our watches. We were the first flagship store in Europe back in December 2016, and we are proud that we are always here for the locals and tourism, showing nice watches every day.
Then we're gonna get to the second and third floor of this building, because it is the Oris Boutique in the whole building, as you saw from outside. And when you walk up the stairs, there's little notes of each different chapters of the brand. And actually, if you were looking closely there was a guy on a picture that we will meet later on in this video, which is quite cool. Here on the second floor is like a conference room where there's a lot of different Oris watches, movements, and also a conference table in the middle. But then when we walk up more, we get further and further back in the history of Oris, all the way back to 1904 when the brand started. And here Simon will take over again and tell us more about the third floor.
And here you see the vintage room of the Maison Oris. That's also the place where we come together with the community of Basel. Doesn't matter if it's just a random customer walking in or a watch enthusiast who can more or less see the history of that building, which is around 700 years old, and the history of Oris. We also celebrated 120 years last year, so a lot of history shown in that building. And also here we have a little display with watches from local collectors who are super proud of showing their watches to the public. And whenever you are in Basel and you want to visit us, we always have Oris beer with us. So come over and check out the Maison Oris here in Basel and have a beer with us.
So as Simon said, don't hesitate to go into this store if you ever happen to be in Basel, because they're really friendly, great watches and cold beer. And you can see the building is quite spectacular, and make sure you get up to the third floor, because that's where most of the fun is, in my personal opinion. We got to see the latest Hölstein edition, which glows in the dark, and there's a bear there. And the person I talked about before, this is the guy Ulrich. He owns the brand and he bought it in 1982, and we're gonna meet him later in this video. And we have now left Basel and are in Liestal, because here is where the name of Oris comes from. The name comes from this specific creek, which is named the Oris Creek. And this creek goes from Liestal out to Ergols, then to Rhein, and then out in the Northern Sea. And in this city you will see several different places that are called something with Oris. Even here on the train station you see Oristal is on the sign here. And this is the train that actually Oris have made a tribute to, because this one is called the Waldenburgbahn, which goes all the way to Hölstein, which has been enabling the growth of Oris back in the day. And it's a beautiful train ride, this one, also looking out the window, and the sun is even there. But then I got super excited because now I could see Hölstein is gonna be our next stop, and we're very close to the headquarters. And here we are walking from the tram all the way to the Hölstein office. And this is where my experience really peaks, because this was such a cool thing to see, the pink or like peach colored building that I've seen so many pictures of, and I've seen so many things. And we see the entrance of Oris here, but we had to walk around and take some pictures of the building before, because this side of the building is much most recognizable. I wore my Stockholm edition Oris Social Club watch. Bringing it home where it was produced was quite fun, I think. And it's such a beautiful building. I love this peach pink color. But let's go inside, because that's where it gets most exciting. Because inside here we don't only have production, we have historical pieces, we also have a Hölstein store. So if you're ever in Hölstein, make sure to visit this store, because this one is unique. There's a lot of watches, some older watches, some new watches, some merchandise, some sweaters, and a lot of different things that you can get. So make sure to visit the Hölstein Boutique if you're ever driving by this beautiful little city. And now we're actually inside the offices of Oris, and we went straight up to the top floor, because here is where the design people sit that we're gonna meet later. Ulrich has his office, but also there's a little museum part where we will learn a lot more about the brand. And the focus in the museum now is the big crown pointer, because that is the watch that Oris has been focusing quite a lot on during 2025. In April, during Watches and Wonders, they released the latest upgrade of this watch, and here you can follow the full story that actually starts back in 1938. So this is a watch that's been with the brand quite long and has been with them in many different iterations. So it's really fun to see what is still there when you talk about the design from the first version, second, third, fourth, and now in the latest version. And this is the watch that Ulrich just came to show us, and this is the original one from 1938, which was quite cool to see, because you do see there's quite some features that you can still see on the newest versions that was launched this year. And now we're gonna hand over to Simon again to learn a little bit more about the history of the brand.
We have this slide here. We were established in 1904 by Paul Catin and Georges Christian, who were originally from Le Locle in the region of the Jura, so where most of the Swiss watch brands come from. And they had the idea to come here and create a brand which is worldwide known and being exported from the region of Basel. So really something unusual back in those years, because most of them came from the southwest and not from the northwest of Switzerland. From 1904 until 1917, we only produced pocket watches. So 1917 was the first year Oris came up with a wristwatch. So also on the design of the first watch, you see that it looks like a pocket watch, now just welded on, locks and a leather strap around. So it's more or less an adaptation from the pocket watches, and was also because of the First World War, the soldiers and the lieutenants used watches on the wrist, and that was the easiest way to create a wristwatch. 1928, the next generation came. It was the years when Oscar Herzog used to be the next generation of ownership and being the boss of the brand. And you see here from 1928 until 1971, he was the boss of Oris. So really a long time he was responsible for the success of Oris. And 1925, also in the region here again in Herbertswil and Sieven. So we had to grow, and we expanded in the region and also until Italy, because we were not able to produce all the parts for a watch here in Hölstein. Also quite famous, our alarms, the Wecker alarms, who came after the Second World War, because during World War and after the World War it was hard to export watches. So we focused on the local market and found the wecker could fit in there because everyone needs an alarm to wake up in the morning. So they're really a cultural thing. Every now and then I hear from customers, yes, I know those, my grandparents had one. 1969, the golden years. We were part of the 10 biggest watch companies in the world. We had over 800 employees and sold and produced about 1.2 million watches a year. So you see, it was really a big company back then and well known. And this is how the building looked like back then. So you see the whole building until the very end was all Oris, where now only the front part, which is now in peach rose, is still owned by Oris.
And really important for us is that we are still independent. So we are free to do what we believe is right. So this is still very important for Ulrich Herzog and the whole brand.
So now we learned quite a lot about the history, and then we got to see part of the history, because when you lifted these small glass cups, you can see different in-house made calibers that Oris have built by themselves back in the history. So that was kind of cool, and it's really nicely displayed because you can really get close to the movements and see how they've been done. There was also this cool giant movement from Oris, where you can get close to actually seeing how one of the movements work. There's a lot of historical pictures around the whole place, and there is a caliber 400 displayed in a cool way, so you can see every single part of the movements from different angles. This one I personally like a lot. Now the vintage craziness just started, because Ulrich, who is just beside me here, showed us the archive where they have all the different models that has been done historical, and this is the coolest experience ever for me. We got to see all the catalogs that are from the original dates, and there was so much cool stuff that Oris have stored in this cool building. We picked out 4 different trays, some of them from 1965 and also from 1994, which is my birth year, so we could look closer at some of the watches that has been produced historical. And this is one of the watches that are from 1965, and that was just so awesome, sitting here in this beautiful location, looking out at this beautiful environment, checking out all these vintage pieces just beside where the new designers are doing the new watches from Oris. I can't believe a more genuine experience. I am so impressed by all the people I met. You're so friendly. This is why I love Oris so much, because you're always inviting your normal people who create great watches and have a really cool history with all these really cool vintage pieces, neo vintage pieces, and also producing great watches today. We're gonna wrap up this video, and we're doing that by going into the canteen of Oris, where there is a lot of Oris memorabilia. We saw so much of these cool things. These are dreams to have at home. Then we got to see an Oris bear that was ready to go Formula 1 racing, and it was such a great experience, because here we also got to see a really old sign from Oris, and also me and the wife did a wrist roll here with our vintage Orises. There is actually an Oris gin that I smelled that smelled really nice, but it wasn't time for drinking here. We saw this really cool Oris sign as well, and then the highlight of the day, we did a wrist roll, me, Simon, Lawrence, my wife, and also Ulrich, the owner of the brand itself. We wrapped it all up with an Oris beer that was really tasty after walking around in this building all day, and I just can't thank you all guys enough for this experience. Thank you guys for watching, and thanks for Lawrence, who is the president of Basel, Oris Social Club, Simon for arranging this whole thing, and Ulrich for showing me your archive. The culture you have as Oris, I think, is completely unique. I never met so many passionate and humble people in the same day. I can't wait until next time I come back here.